MergeBase is a software composition analysis tool, so it looks at your applications and it will provide a detailed breakdown. So the MergeBase dashboard is the first thing that you will see. If you analyze things, for instance, in your build pipelines or in other places, in the end, the results will land in this dashboard. And so you hear, this is a demo application. You see a number of demo applications in here. And we can drill down into a particular application, and then it will provide us with the breakdown of all the underlying components that, as you can see here, right? And so for a component, it will talk about what is the risk, if there's any license issues, a number of vulnerabilities in that component. And so if we want to get more information on that component, so here is, for instance, the famous Log4j component that was recently in December in the news because it has this level 10 vulnerability. Level 10 is the worst you can get. It's from 0 to 10, the common vulnerability scoring system that we use. And so you can get more detailed information on the vulnerability as well, with a description, perhaps some comments from MergeBase and kind of what's the root cause, also where is kind of, this vulnerability coming from, and really going to the source. Then we have developer guidance, which provides you with an overview of the versions that are available. In this case, there's a limited number of versions available. It indicates here in the bottom the risk. The blue bar is how compatible are these versions. Well, we're lucky here because all the versions that are out there that are available are quite compatible. Like this version is 91% compatible, so that's actually very good. And then we also see here the popularity in the industry. That might also help you make a decision on what to upgrade to. So if you say, for instance, okay, I want to upgrade to this version, it will provide you with the information that you can apply to your project, and your issues are fixed. So that's kind of one scenario. The other option is that you're saying, well, I'm going to feed this into, because there's multiple teams and there's a complex process, and fixing this needs to be balanced with a lot of other priorities. Well, if that's the case, you might create a Jira ticket or a Microsoft Board ticket, and it will feed into your development workflow and gets triaged, prioritized, and then dealt with the appropriate team. And then if you do that, if you create a ticket, then here you will be updated on the progress of that ticket through your ticketing system like Jira. Of course, we can also filter in lots of different ways. Perhaps you're just interested in vulnerabilities, or you're interested in a particular component, or we can do that as well. Say, for instance, we want to look if we have a Spring library. We have a lot of Spring libraries in our application. So this is done on an application within this application level, but you can also do the same thing here across all the applications and see, well, where do we actually have this Spring library, which applications as well. And the same you can do for vulnerabilities. Of course, there's a lot of reporting, so you can get your standard reports on vulnerabilities, which shows kind of all your vulnerable components, and it will indicate if that's a violation of policy or if that's compliant with policy as well. So that's for your reporting. You can also get software bill of material, obviously, and also report on licenses. So that's a typical use case. What we're also getting more questions for is around the technical debt within your applications. And so here we actually already indicate the age, and as you can see, some components are actually quite old, and of course that is a lot of technical debt. We also have on the top level what we call an obsolescence report. It kind of goes through all the components in all your applications and tells you, which component should have been updated or which component is obsolete. And obsolete means that the developer of that library stopped developing for it a long time ago. Right? And you can imagine if a library has not been supported for, say, 5 years, that it creates quite a risk, because there might be a lot of issues, but nobody's there to fix them. There's no new versions. And so you might want to be aware of that from a risk perspective. Yeah, so that's what MergeBase tells you what your risks are. We'll talk to you about your licenses as well, because there could be risks in there, because there might be license policies that are licenses that don't comply with your license policy, for instance. And we can also look at your technical debt as well. One important element of MergeBase is its notification system. And so the notifications can be deployed in multiple ways. I mean, obviously they're living here in your dashboard, right? So you can get notifications on, for instance, new vulnerabilities that have been uncovered in your system. So you might have scanned an application 6 months ago, but if yesterday a new vulnerability is uncovered in the industry, you will get an alert. So that's an important event. We also see here, for instance, a rescored alert event that happens as well. And that is something that a lot of organizations are not paying attention to, but they should, because what tends to happen is that there is a vulnerability in one of your libraries, and it's not that high, say level 4. But then somebody uncovers a way to better exploit that vulnerability, and now the risk actually goes up substantially, because if somebody has uncovered how to do that better, it makes it much easier to exploit your system. And so then often these vulnerabilities get rescored. And so what used to be a level 4 now might be a level 9. Right? It's definitely something to be aware of. And in this case, I think this is not that dramatic. It's basically just a level 5. But these are important events. And then also, we haven't talked about suppression management, but if you, for instance, suppress the vulnerability for a period of time, that suppression will expire, and then you get notifications on it as well. If you use our runtime protection, there will be additional notifications on, for instance, on methods being blocked or suspicious methods being accessed, which might really follow up. Right, so there probably was an attack here on this library, and it was blocked. And so that's why you get a notification. And it happened multiple times. That's why it's providing a range. Now, these notifications are in the dashboard, as I mentioned, but you also can send them to Slack, to Microsoft Teams, or probably better, that can be sent to your SIM tool, which is really focused on security event notifications. Right? And so then it can feed into the appropriate workflow, because say, for instance, that a high level vulnerability is uncovered, it might require immediate attention. And so if it feeds into your regular security reporting process, it can be prioritized and assigned according to your existing procedures and policies and resources. So another important feature, especially for technology companies, we found is suppression management. Because if you have policies, and it doesn't necessarily matter that much what the policy is, but say that your policy is to add everything above a level 6 in terms of vulnerabilities, we have to remove, right? And often that will be enforced by blocking builds. So if a build is being run and it contains vulnerabilities above level 6, in that case, the build is stopped and it can't continue. So what if tomorrow you need to deploy with high priority a new version that customers are waiting for, and a vulnerability of 6.5 is there? Now you can't deal with it. So what seems to happen with a lot of other tools is that then developers just disable the controls. They disable their software composition analysis solution. Of course, now you lose all your security governance. So MergeBase has a much better way to handle that. We call that suppression management. So you say, no, that vulnerability of 6.5, we've done a risk analysis on it. And we actually want to deal with this after our build tomorrow. Right? And so so basically we'll snooze this for 2 days and we'll confirm this. So what now happens is that it will not be ranked as a risk today, but on Saturday or in 2 days from now, it will actually pop up again as a full risk. But you've maintained all your governance, because there is a track record here that says that Oscar at MergeBase basically suppressed this vulnerability today. So you haven't lost any governance. You still are able to actually deploy your applications and apply a rigorous risk management process for that. So that's why suppression management is important. It effectively deals with these edge cases around your policies, right? So if your policy is level 6 and you've got something that either because of priorities or perhaps because the vendor doesn't really have a good fix available, you don't want that to stop your development process. You want your development process to continue as normal. So this allows you to do risk management by maintaining proper governance and also continuing with your development as normal. So that's suppression management. I think especially for sophisticated organizations, a very important component to not lose governance. So for instance, from a licensing perspective, you can say for all the policies, if they comply, if this license complies with your policy or is a violation, and then there might be some things you want to just pay attention to. You can say that as a warning level. On the risk, you can set also different levels, and so that works in terms of highlighting it in the user interface, but also in terms of potentially blocking builds. And then, as I mentioned, for the obsolescence report of what is old, when do you want a library to have to be updated? So for instance here, but we can change it. We said, well, if a library is older than 12 months, like when there's an update available, we should update it. And so it gets flagged. Or if a library is not being maintained anymore for longer than 48 months, we consider that to be obsolete. And the organization should consider moving to another library that is actively being maintained. So you can set these type of policy limits in here. It's very important to really get a streamlined process. Then, of course, we have a number of integration options as well. So MergeBase has a full API that you can link into if you want to, and other tools can link into it as well, like vulnerability management tools. We have integration with issue tracking systems like Jira and Microsoft Boards. And we enable, we've got specific integration for GitHub so that actually MergeBase can create pull requests into GitHub. We've got notifications to Slack and other tools. And then, of course, we use Syslog to integrate with SIM tools, as mentioned, from Splunk to IBM QRadar. So that's a little bit of an overview of our integration options as well.